A century of conflict, a brief overview. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is one of the most enduring and complex conflicts in modern history, spanning over a century of turmoil and strife. It is characterized by violence, mistrust, and a seemingly intractable struggle over land and identity, with both sides suffering immense losses. The conflict has its roots in the late 19th century, a period marked by significant social and political changes. This was a time of rising nationalism where both Jewish and Arab communities began to assert their aspirations for nationhood. Both Jews and Arabs sought self-determination in the same geographic area, leading to inevitable clashes over territorial claims. The collapse of the Ottoman Empire after World War I further complicated the situation as new political boundaries were drawn. This led to the creation of the State of Israel in 1948, a pivotal moment that reshaped the region. It also led to displacement for many Palestinians, creating a refugee crisis that persists to this day. Over the decades, the conflict has evolved, marked by numerous wars, uprisings, and attempts at peace. It has been punctuated by wars, uprisings, and failed peace attempts, each leaving a lasting impact on the region. The conflict is not just about land, it is deeply intertwined with issues of history, religion, and identity. It is also about history, religion, and the struggle for recognition and security, with each side holding deeply rooted beliefs and grievances. Understanding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict requires delving into its historical, political, and religious dimensions, each layer adding to its complexity. It demands empathy for the narratives of both sides, recognizing the pain and aspirations of all involved. And it requires recognizing the human cost of this protracted struggle, with countless lives affected by the ongoing violence. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a human tragedy, a story of suffering and resilience. It is a stark reminder of the human capacity for both conflict and resilience, showcasing the strength and determination of those affected. It is a conflict that continues to shape the Middle East, influencing regional politics and international relations. It is a conflict that demands the world's attention and a commitment to finding a just and lasting peace, a resolution that honors the dignity and rights of all people involved. The seeds of discord and nationalism's rise. This period marked a significant turning point in history, where the fervor of national identity began to reshape the political landscape. The late 19th century witnessed a surge in nationalist sentiment across Europe. This was a time when people began to see themselves not just as subjects of empires but as members of distinct nations with unique identities and destinies. This wave of nationalism also swept through the Ottoman Empire, a vast and diverse realm that had long been a mosaic of cultures and religions. The Ottoman Empire was a vast, multicultural entity that included the territory now known as Israel and Palestine. This region, rich in history and cultural significance, became a focal point for emerging nationalist movements. Among Jews, this nationalist spirit manifested as Zionism. Theodor Herzl, often considered the father of modern political Zionism, played a pivotal role in galvanizing Jewish communities around the idea of a national homeland. Zionism was a movement advocating for the establishment of a Jewish state in their ancestral homeland. This vision was not just about a physical territory, but also about cultural and spiritual revival. This movement gained momentum in response to growing anti-Semitism in Europe. The harsh realities of pogroms and systemic discrimination underscored the urgent need for a safe haven. It offered Jews a vision of a safe haven and a chance to revive their cultural and national identity. The dream of returning to Zion became a powerful unifying force. Simultaneously, Arab nationalism emerged as a powerful force. Inspired by similar ideals of self-determination, Arab leaders began to envision a future free from Ottoman control. Arabs within the Ottoman Empire sought greater autonomy and self-rule. They aspired to create a political entity that reflected their own cultural and historical identity. They resented Ottoman rule and aspired to shape their own destiny. The desire for independence and self-governance became a rallying cry for many. The rise of these two national movements created a volatile situation. Both Jews and Arabs were driven by deep-seated historical grievances and a longing for self-determination. Both Jews and Arabs laid claim to the same territory. This overlapping of national aspirations set the stage for inevitable conflict. They both harbored dreams of independence and self-determination. These dreams, however, were on a collision course leading to tensions and confrontations. This clash of aspirations, fueled by historical grievances and competing claims, set the stage for the conflict that would erupt in the 20th century. the struggle for land and identity became a central issue. The seeds of discord were sown. The rise of Jewish and Arab nationalism created a breeding ground for conflict, making peaceful coexistence increasingly difficult. The rise of Jewish and Arab nationalism created a breeding ground for conflict. The competing nationalisms made the struggle for land and identity in the region almost inevitable. It made the struggle for land and identity in the region almost inevitable. The historical grievances and aspirations of both communities clashed violently. This period laid the groundwork for the complexities that continue to plague the region today. The echoes of these early nationalist movements are still felt in the ongoing conflict. It reminds us that history's echoes reverberate through time, shaping present-day realities. The legacy of nationalism's rise continues to influence the geopolitical landscape of the region. Shifting sands, World War I, and its aftermath. World War I brought about seismic shifts in the global order. The Ottoman Empire, allied with the Central Powers, faced defeat. Its disintegration had profound consequences for the Middle East. Great Britain, a key player in the war, made promises to both Jews and Arabs. These promises were often contradictory and fueled further mistrust. In 1917, Britain issued the Balfour Declaration. This declaration expressed support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. This declaration, while vague in its language, was seen by Zionists as a crucial step towards statehood. It raised hopes for a Jewish homeland after centuries of diaspora. However, this same period saw Britain make promises of independence to Arab leaders. These promises were made in exchange for their support against the Ottoman Empire. These conflicting promises created a tangled web of commitments. It sowed the seeds for future conflict between Jews and Arabs. The aftermath of World War I left the Middle East in a state of flux. The collapse of the Ottoman Empire created a vacuum. It was a vacuum quickly filled by competing national aspirations and the maneuvering of global powers. Section 4. Birth of a Nation, Eruption of War, 1947 to 1948. This period marked a significant turning point in the history of the Middle East. Following World War II, the question of Palestine intensified. The region became a focal point of international attention and conflict. The horrors of the Holocaust strengthened the Zionist push for a Jewish state. Survivors sought a new beginning in a land they could call their own. It underscored the need for a safe haven from persecution. The influx of Jewish refugees into Palestine increased tensions in the region. In 1947, the United Nations voted to partition Palestine. This decision was seen as a solution to the growing conflict. The plan proposed the creation of two states, one Jewish and one Arab. This was intended to address the aspirations of both communities. Jerusalem was to be placed under international control. This was meant to ensure access to holy sites for all faiths. This partition plan was accepted by Jewish leaders but rejected by Arab leaders. The Arab community saw it as an unjust division of their land. They viewed it as an unfair imposition by external powers. Protests and demonstrations erupted across the Arab world. The partition plan was never implemented. The situation on the ground deteriorated rapidly. Violence erupted between Jewish and Arab communities in Palestine. Clashes became more frequent and intense. In May 1948, David Ben-Gurion declared the establishment of the State of Israel. This historic moment was a culmination of years of struggle. This declaration triggered an immediate response from neighboring Arab states. They mobilized their armies to confront the new state. The Arab-Israeli War of 1948 ensued, drawing in Egypt, Syria, Jordan, and Iraq. The conflict was fierce and widespread. The war ended in 1949 with Israel's victory. The new state had secured its existence but at a great cost. However, the war resulted in the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. Many lost their homes and livelihoods. This event is known as the Nakba, meaning catastrophe in Arabic. It remains a deeply traumatic memory for the Palestinian people. The 1948 war had a profound impact on the region. It reshaped the political landscape of the Middle East. It solidified the existence of Israel, but sowed the seeds for future conflicts. The animosities and grievances from this period would persist for decades. It also created a Palestinian refugee problem that continues to this day. The legacy of this conflict is still felt in the ongoing struggles of the region. Section 5. The SixDay War, a turning point. Tensions remained high between Israel and its Arab neighbors in the decades following the 1948 war. This culminated in the Six-Day War of 1967. In the weeks leading up to the war, tensions escalated. Egypt expelled UN peacekeepers and blockaded the Straits of Tiran. This blockade threatened Israel's access to the Red Sea. On June 5, 1967, Israel launched a preemptive strike against Egypt. This strike marked the beginning of the Six-Day War. The war was a decisive victory for Israel. Israel captured the Sinai Peninsula, the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights. The Six-Day War had far-reaching consequences. It redrew the map of the Middle East. It also led to Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories. This occupation continues to this day. The war also fueled Palestinian nationalism. It gave rise to the Palestinian Liberation Organization, or PLO. The PLO sought to establish an independent Palestinian state. The Six-Day War marked a turning point in the conflict. It solidified Israel's military dominance. It also planted the seeds for the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian struggle. Section 6. The Yom Kippur War shifting tides. In October 1973, on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in Judaism, Egypt and Syria launched a surprise attack on Israel. The Yom Kippur War, also known as the Ramadan War, aimed to regain territories lost in the Six-Day War. The war caught Israel off guard. It revealed vulnerabilities in Israel's military perception of its Arab neighbors. After initial setbacks, Israel recovered. It counterattacked on both fronts with the support of the United States. The war lasted 3 weeks. It ended with a ceasefire brokered by the UN. Although Israel maintained its territorial gains, the Yom Kippur War had a significant psychological impact. It challenged the perception of Israel's invincibility. It also led to a reassessment of regional dynamics. The war paved the way for the Camp David Accords in 1978. These accords, signed between Israel and Egypt, marked a historic breakthrough. The Yom Kippur War highlighted the costs of continued conflict. It underscored the need for a negotiated settlement. However, it also demonstrated the enduring complexities of the Arab-Israeli conflict and the long road